It's fitting the primary color for both the Rutgers Scarlet Knights and the Nebraska Cornhuskers is red because Saturday afternoon's matchup in Lincoln is set to be a good old-fashioned Big Ten bloodbath.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
I said it in the preseason when referencing this game, and now that we're at game week, my mind has not changed at all. This game will not be for the faint of heart. There is going to be some hitting going on that field at Memorial Stadium, whether you are watching the game in person or whether you are watching the game on television. You are going to be hearing those pads pop. It is going to be a physical football game between two physical football teams. Of course, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, they've got 2 Power 4 wins already this season, undefeated right now. Both teams receiving votes in the AP Top 25. Rutgers beating Virginia Tech a couple of weeks back and then beating Washington. Both very slim and very close wins for the Scarlet Knights. 21-18 over Washington last Friday night. You look at Nebraska, maybe they haven't played their best the last 2 weeks. You look back a couple of Friday nights ago where they felt they should have had that one against Illinois. They felt that they left that one on the table, losing in overtime. And then this last week, they didn't score until late in the third quarter against the Purdue Boilermakers. They're looking to put their best foot forward, but it is going to be a challenge for them. It's going to be a challenge for Rutgers. It is going to be a fantastic football game on Saturday afternoon. All right, let's start to break this one down. Let's get into these matchups here, why don't we? And when I look at the biggest matchup, I think there's multiple things that could really sway this game back and forth. I think that's how close that this game is. You look at that spread, -6.5. I feel pretty good about Rutgers plus 6.5, certainly in this football game. I'll get to my prediction at the end of this one here. So the 2 units that I think are the best on the field, I think could sway this one certainly one way or the other. It's the Rutgers rushing offense against the Nebraska rushing defense. Of course, we got to talk about Kyle Monangai. Say his name. I think we know about Kyle Monangai. I've certainly talked about him before. Of course, the Big Ten's leading rusher last year, over 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2023. But nationally, we need to start letting the folks know about Kyle Monangai. And I think the word is getting out. Certainly a little bit outside Big Ten circles. You're starting to see the appreciation for Kyle Monangai right now. There's so many great traits that make him a great running back. His cutting ability, his cutback ability, his vision, falling forward, all of those great things that you want out of a great back. Kyle Monangai certainly has that. Man, if it weren't for Caleb Johnson's ridiculous season so far at Iowa, he'd probably be the Big Ten's leading rusher at this point right now. Rutgers is the 12th ranked rushing offense in all of college football. They are going up against the 15th ranked rushing defense in all of college football. Of course, we know about those guys up front, the Ty Robinsons and the Nash Hutmakers as well. John Bullock and company at linebacker have been flowing to the football as well. This has been, Nebraska, this has been a good defense against the run, and this is going to be an irresistible force, meaning an immovable object type of thing. Who's going to win the battle? Right now, I can't say one way or another that I feel comfortable and confident that one side is going to win. I think both sides could have a really good day. Now, I think a big reason why Rutgers has continued to find success on the run game is also because of their pass game. It's also because of their balance on offense. Because last year when you played Rutgers, which is crazy because he was the Big Ten's leading rusher last year, I think that just goes to show you how good Kyle Monangai is as a running back talent. But this year, I think the offense is a little bit more balanced with Rutgers, and Nebraska certainly has to be aware of that. You bring in Ethan Kaliakmanis as the quarterback. He's protected the football. I think he's played comfortably and confident within Kirk Ciarrocca, reuniting, of course, with Kirk Ciarrocca as the offensive coordinator. You bring in Dymere Miller. You've got Ian Strong. I think they're better at receiver. They're better at quarterback, and this is just a more balanced Rutgers offense. Now, when I'm defending this thing, if I'm Tony White, of course, the first thing that I want to do is try to contain this run game. It hasn't been the easiest project for teams the last 2 years when they face off against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, but I want to put the football into the hands of quarterback Ethan Kaliakmanis. Ethan, although he's been good throwing the football down the field, and it has added that dimension a little bit more to the Rutgers offense so far this season. He hasn't been asked to do a whole lot this season. So if I'm Nebraska, I want to put the ball into the hands of Ethan Kaliakmanis. I want to be able to make him make plays, because if Rutgers is able to run the football effectively in the early downs, and they're able to live in second and medium, second and short, they live in third and short. That's exactly what they want to do. They want to methodically move the football down the field, achieve balance with the play action game with Ethan Kaliakmanis, keep the Nebraska offense on that side of the field. I'll explain why that's a big deal here in just a minute. And they want to control the game that way, and they want to grind you down. I've called Rutgers before a mini Michigan. We all know about the boa constrictor, right? That was said a ton last season when referring to Michigan. I believe Rutgers is in that same type of mold where they want to wear you down and they want to grind you down as the game goes on, and then they are that disciplined team that just makes those couple of plays late in the football game. Who's going to win that battle? Whoever wins that battle, I think, would come out on top in this very football game as well. Let's talk about the Nebraska offense in this one, because I think they've got an opportunity to really flex their muscle in this game. Really, when talking about when the Huskers have the football, you got to talk about Rutgers defense. Now, they bring back a lot of players this season and a lot of experience across their entire defense. I talked about that in my season preview with Richie O'Leary at the beginning of the year, but this is a Rutgers defense right now. They're 98th, in the country in rushing defense. Like, look at their performances against power conference opponents. Jonah Coleman rushed 16 times for 148 yards. Washington rushed for 207 yards. That's 7 yards a pop. Okay, you look at Tootin for Virginia Tech, rushed 15 times for 122 yards, 3 scores. Virginia Tech rushed for 182 yards, 6.8 yards per pop as well. You go to the pass defense as well. Now, Rutgers did a really good job against Kyron Jones and Virginia Tech, but you look at this last Friday night, Will Rogers was efficient throwing the football, threw it for over 300 yards and a couple of scores, and he didn't turn the football over. I think that's very key. I think when you look at what Rutgers has shown on tape against power conference opponents, and then you look at Nebraska, I think that this is a Huskers offense and a Huskers unit that has the ability to move the football down the field against this Rutgers Scarlet Knights team. And I think a big thing that was the case last year for Rutgers, that is also the case this year, is maybe the lack of the ability to get home and play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. This is a Rutgers defense, last in the Big Ten in sacks, last in the Big Ten in tackles for loss. They're going to need to make those plays. They're going to need to get Dylan Raiola moving. We have seen when Dylan Raiola is comfortable in that pocket, when Dylan Raiola has time to throw, he's going to make throws. And they've got big receivers that I think poses an advantage for them. Of course, Jamal Banks, Isaiah Nair, Thomas Fedoni over there at tight end. We'll see if they can get the deep ball going in this one over the top to Jalen Lloyd. Been saying that. I think we're just waiting. We're waiting for the cork to be popped a little bit on that deep ball down the field as well. So I'm curious to see what Nebraska's offense can truly do against a Rutgers defense that hasn't been outstanding against their power conference teams. Can Nebraska get this offense going? Can they get this run game going against this Rutgers front? I think a big key is the offensive linemen need to get to the second level, because Nebraska has, or I should say Rutgers has a really good pair of linebackers. Tyreen Powell came back from an injury. Of course, he's there. Dariel Jabome has done a really good job of replacing Mohamed Toure, who, of course, was injured for the season in fall camp. Jabome, he's one of the leaders in the Big Ten in tackles right now. He always finds his nose. He always finds his way to the football. So they've got to get to that second level to be able to pop those runs and get that run game going here just a little bit down the field. So Nebraska has a good chance to be able to move the football throughout this game. Now, the key for Nebraska, we go back to that Washington game again. The key for Nebraska is going to be able to finish in the red zone. And that's where I want to go next with this one, because it leads into my last point, talking about special teams. I think Nebraska needs to find a way to get into the end zone when they get into the red zone. This is a Nebraska offense. They are 104th in the country in red zone offense. Okay, they finished well in the first half against Colorado. Outside of that, this is maybe an offense when they get down to that area, they've had a little bit more problems maybe getting into the end zone and finishing drives with 6. They've settled for some field goals. More on that here in just a minute. And we talk about Rutgers in that same metric. Boy, bend but don't break. We talk about the production that Washington was able to put up. Over 500 yards of total offense the Huskies put up on Rutgers, but they only scored 18 points. Why is that? Because Rutgers buckled down in the red zone. This is a Scarlet Knights defense that is second in the country in red zone defense. They forced Washington to kick field goals, and guess what? They missed those field goals. Rutgers took advantage, and Rutgers, of course, was able to win that football game. That leads us in to special teams. Because when I look at the defensive game plan for Joe Harasimiak and this Rutgers defense, I want to make Nebraska kick field goals. Because, when I look at maybe how this game breaks down and what Rutgers is doing on defense and what Nebraska's doing on offense, Nebraska's probably going to be able to move the football in this game. But I want to play this game a lot like I did like the game against Washington, because Nebraska has been worse than Washington in their kicking game. They might not attempt a field goal because it has been that bad dating back really to earlier in the season, but especially that missed field goal against Illinois and then that game against Purdue. This is a Nebraska team, 4 of 9 on field goals. Them and Penn State, the worst teams in kicking field goals so far this season. It's not just missing field goals, it's protecting the kicker as well. 2 field goals versus Purdue got blocked, and Nebraska has had 3 field goals blocked this season. That is tied for the lead in FBS. That is tied for the lead in the entire country. So, if Rutgers can stand tall in the red zone, if Rutgers can force Nebraska to kick field goal after field goal after field goal, that gives Rutgers a fighting chance. And I think that puts the pressure on Nebraska to be able to make those kicks. And if they don't attempt those kicks, now you get yourself in a 4th down. And if you can make those 4th down stops, you can use that momentum to certainly go back the other way on the offensive side of the football. So Nebraska not doing great on special teams. What do we know about Rutgers? What do we know about Greg Schiano? This is a disciplined team. This is a team that plays very well historically on special teams. Look at last year against Michigan State when they were trailing in that game. They used block kicks to propel their way back into that game and being able to overcome the Michigan State Spartans on that day. Look at the bowl game against Miami. I think Rutgers has a special teams advantage in this football game, or they could have a special teams advantage in this game. And when you have 2 teams as close as they are, I talked about the offense and defense for both teams. When this team is as close, and when this game is as close as it could be, and it comes down to special teams, and it comes down to a missed kick or a block kick, or it comes down to a field goal here and a field goal there, maybe that one sways this one back in the direction of the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Special teams have got to be special for both football teams. All right, let's dive into my prediction. I think that this one is going to be close. Rutgers plus 6.5 is a very, very good play for me. 21-17, I've got Nebraska winning in this particular football game. You notice how I don't have Nebraska making a field goal in this game. I think that's for a good reason in this one. But I think Nebraska is going to be able to move the football on this Rutgers defense. I think the Nebraska defense is going to zero in on Kyle Monangai, try to force the ball into the hands of Ethan Kaliak-Manis and see if he can beat you. This is going to be a close game, folks. This is going to be a really good football game in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I cannot wait to take this one in. I want to know what you guys think. Who do you think comes out on top? Leave all of your score predictions in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We will see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.